acupuncture is kind of an Eastern medicine, a Chinese medicine.
It is.
Solution to pain and pain management. But how does it work?
Well, I'm going to explain to you exactly what the Chinese believe about it. Now, it's hard to understand from our Western standpoint of here is a cause, here's an effect. What it works on is actually the meridians. And the meridians is how the energy flows through the body. So there are 12 bilateral meridians. So bilateral meaning one on each side. That when your chi or your life energy moves through you, it will spend 2 hours in each one of the meridians. So in a 24-hour day, it has then circulated throughout your entire body. And so it's not, when we'll work on a point like, let's say, we'll work on something like tooth pain, and it's in your foot. People don't quite understand how that works. And in Chinese medicine, they actually believe that the farthest point away is the one that's most effective.
Really?
So, yeah. And it's an amazing art because you can study it forever and you'll never learn it all. I mean, there's just so much. There's regular Chinese acupuncture there, and we do use needles, or we use a laser and microcurrent. So we can do it either way, with or without needles. What it really does is a lot of conditions that don't normally resolve really easily with our regular treatment, and so it's kind of it's another tool in the toolbox to use to help get people better.
Right. So. Again, I find it interesting. I came to you for some back treatment, and I know you put something in my ears, actually, and you said you can push on this a couple of different times. It was just like a little Band-Aid, but it had a little pointed thing on there.
It was a seed, yeah.
Yeah, and you just said push on it a couple of times during the day.
Right.
And I assumed, obviously, that was an acupuncture.
It is.
It was serving that purpose as
Absolutely.
well. For that, so again, there's that connection like that, and I've also heard like if your stomach's upset or something like that, that you can massage this part of your.
Well, that's for headache.
That's for headache. Okay. Well,
it can work.
Okay, so
the stomach is over here.
What do you do for too much sunlight in your eyes?
Well, that one I can't really help you with.
Sunglasses.
Sunglasses might be really helpful.
So the acupuncture stimulates the nerves.
It stimulates the meridians.
The meridians.
Yes.
Okay. Again, explain what a meridian is.
That is a pathway for the energy.
Okay.
And so that's they are very. A lot of the acupuncture points are in the same points as what we would think of as trigger points or nerve insertions or something like that. But don't be confused that it is a completely different philosophy than this actually attaches to a nerve. There is when they do an autopsy or something, you're never going to find a meridian. You're not going to find it attached to anything. But yet we can translate electricity down that pathway. We can translate light down that pathway and stuff. So, interestingly enough, electronically, they're studying it much more in Europe, Switzerland, and I want to say Germany also is doing a lot more with the stimulus for different points than even China is now. So it moved. It started in China, then it went to Korea, then it went to Japan. And so there's different philosophies. Chinese have huge needles. The Japanese use really tiny needles. That's what we use. Right. Because, those great big ones where you stick them all the way through, the arm doesn't really work for me.
Oh, is that what they do with the huge needles? They actually do that? Wow.
They can. Well, that way they're treating 2 points at once, one on the front and one on the back.
Maybe 3 if you're a small person. Let's connect 3 dots. Yeah, yes. No. So it opens those meridians. I mean, chiropractic is kind of about that as well as balancing the body.
Chiropractic is about the nervous system. So that's where the difference is. Chiropractic actually is working on increasing nerve flow and nerve function in the body. Right. Whereas the acupuncture is energy flow. And so it's we would usually adjust someone first because we don't want any nervous system blocks first. And then we want the energy to be able to flow because you can actually have a block if the nerve, and it can be too much or not enough energy. Right. And so there is no complete normal for acupuncture or for Chinese medicine. Really? It's just balance. It's we don't want too much of this. We don't want just a little bit. One of the great stories is you think of a happy valley where there's a little stream coming down, and everything's green, and the trees are perfect, and everything lives in harmony.
I'm feeling very tranquil right now. Yes.
Yes. And then the beavers come in, and they cut down the trees, and they block the dam. And so now the valley floods
Sure.
and everything. So you have too much energy. In Western medicine, we always think, oh, well, more is better. Well, no, because now you have too much energy, but it's stuck there. And so now the trees die, and the crops are flooded, and all this kind of stuff. And so the Chinese say, well, in Western medicine, you kill the beaver, but you don't do anything about the actual dam that he built.
Yeah.
And so in Western, or in the Eastern medicine, it's like we have to get the pathway flowing again. We have to remove the dam and have it return to its homeostasis.
I got you. So while you're doing that, the treatments are what do you feel? I mean, I've actually had it done in my back, and
Sure.
And it was for back issues,
Sure.
and they put they had me sit in that sit up chiropractic kind of the massage type of chair,
Yeah.
and they put it in my back at that
Right.
point. And I didn't
Absolutely.
feel very much. That even though that's a pretty non-fat area there,
Right.
I didn't feel very much.
Well, it does. The needles are smaller than a human hair, so it is not like getting a shot at all, because
Right.
that's a big gauge, a hole in the center and all that.
Yeah.
So this is a tiny, tiny needle. However, it totally depends on where it's going, because sometimes you can feel almost nothing. Sometimes, depending on if it is a very, very sensitive area, like around the nails, the hands and feet, that is probably one of the most tender places and things like that. And some people will not feel very much, as you didn't, and especially in, also there's fewer nerve endings. They're farther apart in your back than they are, let's say, in your fingers.
Yeah.
So, because that's where they're the closest together.
Yeah.
So that does make a difference. And then some people will feel, they will say that the energy is coming in. It's almost like a burning or but it goes away almost immediately, and that kind of thing. So
you get used to that sensation all of a sudden. Yeah.
Well, and when you insert a needle, I mean, sometimes you'll feel that, but then it goes away almost immediately.
Right,
so.
Right. And there's very little risk of acupuncture. Like you said, you often will try it when some other things haven't quite worked. But there's very little risk of it if it works.
Great.
And sometimes it works great for certain people, and it can get athletes back to their game and things like that. And just the regular people, it might help them. You might not get as good of an effect with it, but there's very little risk to.
I was going to say there's kind of no downside. It's yes, it's not particularly, even though you're using needles, not particularly invasive. And like I said, if someone is afraid of needles or something like that, we can use it with the microcurrent and the laser, and then you don't have any problems at all, because there's no risk.
Right.
But there is really very, very little risk of any problems. So. And
often, I mean, how long is the usual acupuncture treatment, and how many needles do you often use? I mean, it might be one, it might be a dozen.
It totally depends on the condition, and traditional Chinese medicine, the fewer needles, the better. But it totally depends, because yes, you can use just one. Typically, we're treating several points, and so it really depends. And especially, there's the 12 bilateral meridians that we talked about, but there's also 2 unilateral meridians, one that goes just up the front of the body and one that goes up the back. And so you may have, but when you're treating both sides of the body, however many you use, you're using twice that many.
Right.
So if I only treat 5 points on one side, I'm still treating the other 5 points on the same.
I see.
So
that's that balance thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then after acupuncture, do people come bounding out of the office? Do they feel good? Do they feel more energy? Do they feel tired?
For migraines, that is where I see probably such a huge difference. Because,
Really?
Someone comes in with sunglasses and is, doesn't want to talk to you and can't handle the sound and the whole thing. We put them in the dark room and do the needles, and then usually they come out a little more pleasant. Yeah.